going on, YouTube? So today we're going to do a replacement of the hydraulic system on the clutch on my 01 Ram 2500. So basically the problem is the master cylinder on the clutch hydraulics has gone bad, the seal's blown out. So when you push the clutch in, you only have enough pressure to disengage the clutch for just a second, and then the pressure goes away and then you can't get it out of gear, can't shift, can't do nothing. Pretty much makes it impossible to drive. So what we're going to do today is go through and I'm going to show how to replace everything, what tools you need, how the proper way to bleed the system, and how to put everything back in and make sure it's working again. So alright, let's jump into it. Okay, so the first thing I want to look at is the tools you're going to need for the job. So the first one, good pair of channel lock pliers. You're going to use these to get the roll pins back in after you put the system back together. So we got little U-joint, just so you can get around some of the tight spaces and get some of the nuts and bolts out. A couple extensions, ratchet, got a 13 millimeter. I don't know if you can see that very well on the camera. 13 millimeters, so that's going to be for the slave cylinder down on the tranny. And the 15 millimeter here, if you can see that, it says 15 millimeter. That one's going to be to take the master cylinder out from on the firewall behind the clutch pedal. And then just have a simple punch right here. That's to take the roll pins out so we can take the old slave cylinder and old master cylinder off of the lines. So alright, let's go from there. One more quick thing I forgot to mention is I'm going to use the vice grips for the bleeding process just to hold the system upright so I don't tip anything over, spill any fluid, whatever. So, but I just kind of forgot to mention that with the tools. But you don't have to use the vice grips, but it is pretty much the easiest way to hold the system unless you have another pair of hands or someone else working with you. Alright, so here we have the parts you're going to need. So this first one here, this is the master cylinder. You can see the part number on there. I just went down and bought the parts from Napa. So if we pull it out of the box here, this is what the master cylinder looks like straight out of the box. So you can see it's just got kind of the foam seal for on the firewall. New line for the reservoir. You got a little bit of hardware, foam seal, shoulder washer, a couple O-rings, and this is that roll pin I was talking about. So you'll need those. So you won't have to worry about keeping the old ones because it does have new ones. And then it does come with a new clutch pedal arm. Put that out of the way. So here you can see the part number for the slave cylinder. Pulling that out of the box, you can see it's just a tube. So it's just got a little guard on here to hold the arm in. Don't cut these because the first time you use it, it'll actually break them and it'll just break apart in the bell housing, so you won't have to worry about it. Just make sure not to cut these arms. And then you can see here, new hardware, roll pin, seal. And then you can use brake fluid. I just went down and bought Napa DOT3 brake fluid. This is the fluid that's used in the hydraulic system. So always use a new bottle because brake fluid does take on moisture if left open, and it can make the fluid break down over time basically. So make sure to use a new bottle of brake fluid, and it's pretty cheap. I think this whole bottle was like $8. So there you go, those are the new parts you'll need. Okay, so here we can see the slave cylinder on the side of the tranny. So these two bolts, or nuts actually, there's just two of them right here on either side of it. So there's one up above and one on the bottom right here. Those are the 13 millimeters. And then you can kind of see here, the cylinder just kind of pokes out, and this line goes up and around and goes up to the top, up to the master cylinder, up along the firewall. So I'm going to take these out and I'll give you guys a look. So what I ended up doing here was actually just taking a gear wrench and putting it on there. This is a little bit easier to get to than with a socket. And so, I don't know if you can quite see, try to get a better angle here, but the one up top there is basically almost already out. And so the gear wrench just ended up working a lot better than the socket. So those are almost out, and I'll show you what that looks like when I get those out. Nuts out. And so if you look here, you can actually see that the factory left that little guard on there. I don't know how you can see that with my lighting here, but if I move it up. But you can see the two little clippies are still on there, so that just goes to show that is the way the factory does it. So this clutch hydraulic system has never been replaced. It is the factory unit, but that is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to leave it on there. So, and then you can see the hole there where that went in. So, and then if we take a look up here, if I move my flashlight here, let's see here if I can get a better angle. This is really hard to do with holding the camera, but you can see that little clip up there. You don't actually have to pull that clip out. You can just pop it apart with a small screwdriver, and then that way that line will be free all the way up to the master cylinder, and you can just pull it all out as a unit. Okay, so here we are inside the truck. And so what we're looking at here is the back side of the master cylinder. And so as you can see here, there's one nut right here, and there's one, if I can get to it, there's one hiding up there at the top, right there. Those are both 15 millimeter nuts. This is your clutch safety switch, so we'll have to take that and put it on the new rod. So we'll get rid of this one, and then if I can twist this around here, I don't know if you can see it, but there's actually a clip on the back side of the pedal here, on the swing arm for the pedal, to take this rod off. And we'll take that off and I'll show you what that looks like when it's all done. Okay, so I just want to show kind of quick how I got to that nut there. And so I'm just using the U-joint on a big extension so I can get to that nut right there. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the top nut. Okay, so I kind of forgot to mention, to unhook the clutch safety switch, there's this plug right here, this little green plug, and there's a little red piece you have to pull back in order to pull the plug out. I actually ended up pretty much having to break it to get it to come out, but the clip will still work and it'll hold it just fine. The red clip is basically just a safety clip to make sure like you can't pull this out without it. So, and then that's actually just in this little hole right here is where the little Christmas tree clip is plugged into. So, and then once you have that free, I got the two nuts out on top and bottom on the master cylinder here. So then I just need to take the clip out on the push rod right here, and then we should be able to pull the whole thing out as a unit. Okay, so this is the clip that came off of the clutch fork, or on the clutch push rod. So the way this clip works is the end of the rod actually sticks through there, and you can see, where's my little pointer stick? And you can see this little tab right here actually pushes on the edge of the clip, so you can't push it off, so you have to take a screwdriver and gently push up right here on the back side of that lip to get it up and over the edge on the push rod, and then the clip just slides off. So, but you got to be real careful, because if you foobar this clip, you'll have to go find another one, and I'm sure they're not easy to come by because it looks like a pretty specialized clip. But yeah, you should be able to get it off no problem. But yeah, just try not to bend the shit out of it, basically. You should be okay. So, and then these are what the nuts look like on the master cylinder. So they do have a movable washer on them, and they're just little lock nuts. So, and they came off pretty easy. Okay, coming around here to the front of the truck, you can see we have the fluid reservoir right here, and the line that we're looking at is actually this line right here. And so there's just a little small clip right here, same thing as the one underneath. You can just pop it apart with your fingers or a screwdriver. It comes apart pretty easy. So this yellow wire is for my EGT temp gauge, so don't worry if you don't have that. But then you should be able to pull on it, and it should be free all the way down. So if I look down, I can actually see the slave cylinder bouncing around down there because the line's loose all the way down. So, and our master cylinder down in there, can't really see it very well on the camera here, but you can see it moving around down there, so that's all loose and ready to come out. So we just got to take out these two little bolts right here on the reservoir, and I'll check what size those are, and we'll get those taken out, and then we can pull the whole system out as a single unit. Okay, so looking at those two bolts there on the reservoir, it looks like they are 10mm, but a 3/8 actually fits just a little bit better. It's easier to get into. Can't quite get a socket on those, I noticed, but should be able to come out pretty easy. We'll get those pulled out and we'll go from there. Okay, so we got those two bolts out. They're basically just little machine screws, as you can see right there. So, but we pulled the reservoir out, and then it did take a little bit of finagling, but we did get the master cylinder pulled all the way out, and now it's just a matter of pulling the slave cylinder up and through there, and then we'll have the whole system out and we can start taking it apart.